Hey everyone, it's been quite a while since last real video. I mean, the update in the Fortnite doesn't count, but here we are. We're trying something a little bit different this time. Sorry for horrendous recording as per usual, but first off, we're all used to this by now, and second off, it was this or black screen again. So I think we'd all rather look at something. But anyway, basically, originally I was planning on just briefly talking about YouTube's new policies and how that could affect the channel going forward, but then I realized that was kind of boring, and there's been a lot of things that have happened over the last month and a bit since I was last making videos, so I decided I would just basically spend some time talking about each, well, not each and everything that's happened, but a few things that have happened since then. But start off with YouTube's new policies. There's two things that have happened recently that could have an effect on every channel. Out of the two of them, one of them almost won't have an effect, almost definitely won't, and one of them probably could very easily have an effect. But we'll start off with the smaller one for my channel, but the bigger one for most people, which is the COPPA laws, essentially. Now, COPPA stands for Children's Online Privacy Protection Accords. Basically, it's an act to prevent children's data being collected and used for basically advertisers. So, essentially, it causes trouble with like legal stuff. But YouTube are changing a lot of their policies so that your videos have to either clearly state that they're for kids or that they are not for kids. So you can be fined a lot of money if you do this, if you like mislabel videos or something. But the reason this doesn't really have an effect on my channel, first off, I don't know any 4-year-olds who are wanting to listen to some guy talk about the GameCube for forever. I'm terrible. Absolutely awful. I don't know why. But so yeah, that's the first reason that this probably doesn't have any effect. The second reason is my videos don't have any ads running on them, so even if like for whatever reason some 5-year-old decides they want to watch my content, it would be collecting data on them anyway because I don't have ads running. The reason I probably suck is because I'm paying attention through the because I'm watching through the camera, like I'm just watching through the screen. I'm not actually paying that much attention to the game, but it's just to have some background footage essentially. But so yeah, the COPPA laws really don't affect me in any way, and they shouldn't have any problems with this channel in particular. But there's another thing which is kind of gotten brushed over because of, well, basically COPPA, but it's YouTube are doing this thing where if they decide your channel isn't financially viable, they have the right to delete. I died again, my god. They have the right to delete your channel and all your videos if your channel is not financially viable. Now, like I just said, my videos don't have ads, which means they don't make any money, which means that at any moment YouTube could delete my content for no reason. No fault of my own, I'm none the wiser, blah blah blah. So, if everything suddenly disappears for whatever reason, that's why. But you see, one of the problems with that is most channels are unverified. They are smaller channels just making videos for the sake of it. Most videos on the platform aren't monetized. Like the major channels are all monetized, obviously, but most channels aren't, which kind of suggests that YouTube are going to probably lose a lot of attention from people. And a reason that a lot of people end up watching the monetized videos is because they've probably already started watching something that was just unmonetized. You know, so it's kind of like it kind of makes sense, it kind of doesn't. But so yeah, that's you can see why I didn't just want to make that my big return video because that would have been very disappointing. I'm just gonna walk past. Right. Next up, once now we've talked about that, let's get on some actual stuff that happened. The first thing we're talking about is this pretty much happened like a couple days after the Fortnite video that I made. I have to delete that at some point. But anyway, the PlayStation 5 development kit got leaked. And honestly, eh, it could look worse, but it could look better. It looks really, really big. Like, I cannot believe how bad I'm doing. Maybe if I was paying more attention, it would make more sense. But it doesn't look great. Like, I mean, it's okay. I hope it's not the final design, but it could be worse. Is what I'm saying. Because like, it just looks big and clunky, and it doesn't look like elegant at all. Like, the thing with most PlayStation systems is they're designed to look like sort of like elegant, like not just like a box. Like, they're designed to be sleek and all that. So it's to see such a big departure from that is strange, especially when like the PS4 was like really well designed. The original one, the Slim and the Pro are a bit more questionable, but the original PS4 I really like the design of. Definitely better than the original Xbox One, fucking VCR. But the PS5 dev kit doesn't make it look too great, and a lot of times consoles end up looking pretty similar to their dev kit. So I'm really hoping that's not the case. I'm really hoping that there's major changes so that it looks a bit more presentable. But if it needs to look like that to stop from sounding like a jet engine, then I'm for it. Whatever they need to do to make it sound acceptable and not like the sound of a jet engine. It's really it's not good. Like, so like that's one thing I got to give the Xbox One credit for. Like, I don't give it credit for a lot because it's my least favorite system of the generation. Yes, that does include the Wii U, guys. But the Xbox One runs silently pretty much. It's pretty quiet. Like, Negrat's probably because I don't play anything other than Skyrim on it, but it's modded Skyrim with enhanced textures, so you know. But the Xbox One runs really quietly, and I've never heard anyone complain about noise. PS4, everybody complains about noise because it's very loud. And it could probably be solved by like disassembling the thing and cleaning it out, but I was going to, and then I realized that taking apart PS4 is not an easy task. Like, I mean, it's not as simple as like something like the PS3. The PS3 is pretty easy to like disassemble, far enough to like clean out any dust. Like, I did it a while ago for one of my older ones because it stopped working and it didn't start working. I've had no luck with PS3s, by the way. Well, I mean, I don't know. They're usually really reliable, but I've had one die on me. I've bought a broken one, so fun times. But with the PS5 sort of getting unveiled, all eyes were kind of on Xbox to do something, and a couple days ago they released a trailer for the Xbox Series X at the Game Awards. Now that's something I'm not going to be talking about because I wasn't really paying attention to it really. Like, I mean, most games at the Game Awards are like stuff that I don't really play anyway. I mean, like, I don't follow the Game Awards really because like I just play what I want to play really. Like, I mean we're sitting here in 2019 playing Zelda 1 for NES that was released in 1986, so that shows where priorities are. Right. But anyway, the Xbox Series X is the new name for the system. Okay, fine. It's called the Xbox Series X, and it's not as bad as Xbox 2. That's the best thing I can say about the name. It's not Xbox 2. But the thing is, they tried to justify it. Like, I think this came out like yesterday. A statement saying how they justified calling it that. And it turns out the system's not it's not called Xbox Series X. It's just called Xbox. And the Series X is like a kind of subname. Kind of like, how you have the Xbox One. The Xbox One has the regular version, the S, and the X. So the new system is just called Xbox. And Series X is like the model. What their logic seems to be is they'll release the Series X as this really big, like, premium next generation console, and then they'll release something else, Series, probably some other letter, probably S, because that's the letters they seem to like. So letters they seem to like is S and X, but that'll probably be cheaper and it'll look slightly different. Hopefully, don't go the route that some people are predicting they'll go, where they have no disk drive. I really don't want that to be a thing, because if there's a cheaper option without a disk drive, a lot of people buy that, and then we'll go down an all digital path, and nobody should want that. But anyway, the Microsoft already have a console called the Xbox. Nobody bought it. I'm kidding. It sold okay. I think more people would remember it better if it didn't come out at the same time as the PS2, because the PS2 destroyed everything. The Xbox original, which is what we're gonna have to call it now. I mean, we kind of already do, but I mean, most of the time I just call it the Xbox or the original Xbox. But now you'll have to call it the original Xbox, because there are now going to be at least 2 systems that are officially called Xbox. Probably more likely 3, maybe even 4. I don't know. It depends how many versions of the new Xbox Microsoft wants to release. But the Series X part is like just a code name. Not a code name, like a model number. Almost, yeah, I can't think of it like a model number almost. So, but the name Xbox Series X it's kind of justified that way, but then you've got the thing that their next console is called Xbox. They already have a console called Xbox. It's dumb. It's wrong. It doesn't make any sense. I don't like it. But it's better than Xbox 2. But almost anything would be better than Xbox 2. But I mean, the reason it's kind of annoying is because it's kind of like ignoring the fact that they have a system called the Xbox. Which, I mean, nothing against Xbox. It was it's a really good console, actually. I recommend. They're pretty cheap now. But it's kind of like they're ignoring it, because they don't seem to be, like, I know they acknowledge it and everything, but it seems the further we go on, the less relevant it is to them. Even though, like, that's what got them started, and it was remembered fondly for the most part. Like, I mean, not as widely loved as the PS2, because, well, the PS2 kind of, like, you know, like I said, stole that generation, but there is a console called the Xbox, and they're kind of ignoring it now. I don't know. I'm probably the only one who realistically cares, but you know, it's just, I'm not happy that it's Xbox blank X again. Like, there's already the Xbox One X. You see, with the Wii U, yeah, I know, we'll go back to the Wii U. I know everybody loves the Wii U. Everybody talks about the Wii U because it's 100% relevant always. But the thing is, one of the big problems with the Wii U is that it tried to appeal to a casual market, mostly people who were interested in the Wii. But you see, the thing is, if the casuals were actually paying attention to the Wii U, if they even knew what it was, then they thought it was a tablet add-on for the Wii. And the names are too similar, so people think they're kind of the same thing, or they're kind of in some way related, or it becomes hard to tell the difference, especially because the Wii U looks so similar to the original Wii. Like, if you have one, they're really similar dimension-wise. Like, the Wii U is kind of like a rounded-off Wii, almost. The Xbox Series X, agreeably, looks much different than the Xbox One X, but I can just imagine, like, confused parents going into a shop and saying, I want that Xbox X thing, and then the shop employee is going to be like, what do you mean? Do you mean the One X or the Series X? And then they're like, yeah, just the Xbox X. And they're going to be completely confused, not know what to do, and it's going to lead to confusion, and it's a terrible name. It's an awful name. But, I mean, the design itself is kind of like a PC tower. I mean, the joke's been made 100 times, but it kind of does look like a PC tower, and it's kind of strange. But, I mean, again, it could be worse. I mean, it doesn't look too bad in my opinion. So, moving on from that, we've got more stuff about the Intellivision Amico, which, you know, I covered a while back now. I made 2 videos talking about it. You know, I think I've done this dungeon already. Yeah, I know. I just wasted all that time doing that dungeon again because, actually, hang on. Yeah, I've done that dungeon already. That was a waste of time. Oh well, it's just background anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, but anyway, Intellivision Amico. More stuff has come out about it, and I was going to make a video talking about it, but when it came out, it was just when I was starting my course at university, so I tried to give it a pass because like I was kind of preoccupied with that, and then that kind of like preoccupied for ever and ever and ever. Right, but anyway, some stuff came out about it that we can briefly go over now. So there's a couple things that are like worth talking about straight away. Overall, I think the Amico is going to be decent. Like I really think it's going to be pretty good. But some of the new things about it, I like some of them, and I'm a bit confused by some other ones. I'm trying to remember this off memory because I haven't looked at the thing in a while. I mean, I could get it up just now. Actually, I'll have a look, see if I can find it while I'm talking about some of the ones I can remember. So one of them is that all games have to score at least a 7 out of 10 from Metacritic. That's good because that's quality control essentially. That's like really high standards. A 7 out of 10 for like if a game doesn't get 7 out of 10, it doesn't get released. Which is I think that's a brilliant strategy, honestly. Because then that ensures that customers don't get burnt, and it assumes it makes people more likely to buy your product because they associate it with quality. So I'm trying to find this now. I will eventually find it, but basically the reason having quality control is good is obviously because without quality control, then you end up with stuff like you end up with systems from when the original Intellivision was released. Like a lot of games for the Atari 2600 were really low quality because anyone could make a game. Like you could be anyone make a game. There was no quality control. So modern consoles have quality control, and for the Intellivision Amico to definitely have that is good. But this is really strict quality control. Like if the game isn't okay, here we go. If the game isn't good, then they're not releasing it, which is brilliant. Okay, so I have it now. Another one that's actually good is no in-game purchasing or DLC. That's brilliant. Microtransactions are cancer. Microtransactions are horrible. We don't want microtransactions. DLC is fine in some cases, but there are a lot of times where DLC is not good. There are a lot of times where DLC is just bad. Like, a lot of companies will use DLC as an excuse to have a half-finished game released at launch and then bring out DLC to fix problems. Most of the time that's through patches, which I dislike even more because patches are usually mandatory for the successful function of a game. DLC is usually not. Again, usually. And then you get things like on-disc DLC where it's like the DLC is there, but you can't access it because they locked it out to you so that they can sell it to you and get more money. EA are the most guilty of this with FIFA, and the original version of Battlefront 2 that they released in 2017 was awful for microtransactions. But to Battlefront 2's credit, it has seen huge changes. It's actually, playable now. There's no more pay to win in it. Although I haven't played it in a while, so you never know. But last time I played it, all microtransactions have been cut out except for cosmetic stuff, which cosmetic microtransactions are fine because cosmetics don't give you any advantage. You only get it if you want the extra stuff, right? You don't need cosmetics. You can live without them, but you might need a better weapon. So instead of working for it, you just buy it, and I don't like that. So with Intellivision, Amico saying there is going to be no in-game purchasing or DLC, that's something I could definitely really appreciate. Like something that I kind of want to see for everyone, although there's a 0% chance it's ever going to happen. Like there's no way modern consoles will ever do away with in-game purchasing or DLC because it makes them a ton of money. All developers get a ton of money from that, so there's no way. But Amico is going to be that way, which is good. Another one that's actually good. Another one's good, I guess, is each game will cost less than $10. So this is actually good because if all the games are going to be 7 out of 10 and they're all going to be less than $10, that means you're getting quality experiences for cheap. Can't really argue with that. I mean, there's not much more to say other than that, really. I mean, quality games at a low price. I can't really argue with that. Now, this one's a bit questionable. This one. Every game must be rated E or E10 and up. That was a doorbell. Most horrible timing ever, but I don't know if you heard that was a horrible buzzing sound, but every game must be rated E or E10 and up. Now, I get what they're trying to do with this console. They're trying to make it like a family-friendly sort of machine. So this makes sense from that standpoint, but limiting the console to only E or E10 and up, or I guess for us in the UK it would be PEGI 3, PEGI 7, or maybe PEGI 12. No, so there'll be no like mature games, no 16s, no 18s, or the rare 15. Sometimes you get them on games, but it makes sense for what they're trying to do. But I don't know if that'll help or hinder the system. Every game must be easily playable without the need for complicated or long instructions. Now, the thing is, a lot of games from the era of the Intellivision needed instructions. Like, you would need to read the instruction manual to figure out how to play some games. Like, one of the most famous examples being E.T. for Atari 2600. That game is much more playable if you read the manual. It's not a good game, but it's not the worst thing ever made if you read the manual. So, I mean, making games easy to pick up and play is definitely something that people of today will appreciate more because, most games now don't really come with an instruction manual. If it does, it's like a little piece of paper that says what the buttons do. So, easily playable and without complicated instructions. It's not like it's different from the original Intellivision, but it's pretty good because of today's market, essentially. Now, each game must support the controller. That's kind of obvious. Each game must be balanced and allow players with different skill abilities to have fun. Pretty standard again. I mean, each game has to be fair and balanced. Each game must incorporate local multiplayer, couch co-op, or versus mode. So, a system trying to push local multiplayer instead of online multiplayer is different in this day and age, but something that you can once again appreciate because that means that in the future these games won't be dependent on an internet connection. Although the problem with that is that the system is all digital, which, I mean, I don't like digital content, but I will make an exception for certain things. Like, if something's coming out all digital or only digital that I really want, I'll make an exception. If I can get a game on a disc or a cartridge, I will get it. If it only comes out digitally, then I will get it if I really want it. But if it comes out on disc, I will always get the physical version. But the Intellivision Amico is obviously going to be all digital, so I'm making an exception for it because it actually seems like it'll be pretty cool. So, anyway, the last one here is every game must be 2D or 2.5D. 3D models are okay, but no free-roaming 3D worlds. This one I'm not too big a fan of. I can get why they do it because of the way the controllers are. We'll go back to Zelda now, so we've actually got this because I don't need to look at this anymore. But, you see, the thing is, 3D games are fun. I mean, I know that they're trying to be nostalgic with only 2D games thing because there were no 3D games when the original Intellivision came out, and it makes sense because the way the controllers are designed, they wouldn't really work with 3D games, I would think, unless you wanted to do kind of like a smartphone kind of thing, because they do have touchscreens. Like, where the original Intellivision would have had number pads, they do have touchscreens on them, so it could be done, but it would be inconvenient, I would think. So it makes sense based on the way the controllers are, but and since every game has to support the official controller, it doesn't seem like they're going to be making other controller options. Which I think now is fine because most people are familiar with the kind of shape because it's basically the shape of a smartphone with a disc on the bottom of it. Back then, that controller design was strange because everyone was pretty much used to a 2600 controller, a joystick and a button. So, I mean, limiting the system like that is a little bit strange. Why are there so many enemies here? This might be like a first area, but limiting a system like that is kind of strange, and it might hinder it. I don't think getting rid of all 3D games is like going to help it at all. I don't think anyone's going to go, oh my god, I hate all those 3D games. I want a system that's only 2D. That Amico thing, I want that just because of this. I think there are other things that are going to make. There are other reasons to buy it, I would say. And limiting it to only 2D is understandable for the kind of system that it is, but it isn't something that, I would do, shall we say. Okay, that was probably the longest part because there was kind of a lot to go over. But next up, we're going to talk about the Atari VCS. Kind of a similar thing to the Amico, except it's based off Atari. I mean, the more we hear about what happened, I just died. Okay, I don't know what killed me. Probably some enemy that I didn't see or something. But with Atari VCS, it seems the more this thing gets talked about, the more people dislike it. I'm gonna admit I've not been keeping up with it as much as I have been Amico, but they recently showed that the thing is not dead, because people have been saying that it's dead now and that Atari just stole our money essentially. Because, well, not my money personally, because I don't back things on Kickstarter or whatever usually, just for reasons like this. But they showed an actual picture of what the shell of the system will look like. Like, we've seen it before in the trailer, but that was a render, that wasn't the actual thing. The render makes it look like pretty small, like, not super big. Like, I mean, like, bigger than like a PlayStation Classic, I guess, if you have that, but not much bigger than that. The actual shell is surprisingly big for like how they were showing it before. It seems quite a bit bigger now. So I mean, the thing is actually going to be pretty expensive. Like, Amico is going to be less than $200, which will be like probably like £150. The Atari VCS is going to be way more than that. Like, I think the most expensive version of it is upwards of $300, which, for what else you could buy with that money, I don't think it's going to be successful, really. I've also heard rumors that it's going to be dependent on streaming, which, no, I will. Digital stuff, I'll make an exception for game streaming. No matter what it is, I will not make an exception for streaming services. If it's only going to be for streaming, then I will not buy it under any circumstance. I'm planning to make a video at some point discussing physical games versus digital games versus game streaming, the positives and negatives of each one, where they apply. There are no positives to game streaming, but I'm sure somebody's gonna attack me in the comments for that. But yeah. So, speaking of game streaming and bad things, let's move on to Google Stadia. This is a thing that, if you didn't know, Google are making games. Well, not making games. They're making a game platform. Yeah, people aren't liking it too much. Which, for someone like me, is brilliant. The more bad publicity this thing gets, the better. Honestly. But basically, Google Stadia is weird because the idea of a game streaming service is basically to have Netflix, but for video games. Now, for some people that could work. No, you never go left. For some people that could probably work, and there are probably people who are going to be like, that sounds like a great idea, I would love that. There are huge downsides. It could be convenient and good in the short term, but in the long term it's bad. But I'm not going to talk about that at length here, because then we'll double the video runtime easily. But Google Stadia is weird because instead of having you pay for the subscription service to use the streaming service and then get access to the games, you have to pay the monthly subscription and then pay the full price for the games when they were brand new. So, like, Destiny 2. You can buy Destiny 2 used for, like, £2. I don't know. The Destiny games are worthless. You could get them anywhere for dirt cheap. Google Stadia version, for something that you don't own, technically, Because the minute you stop paying that subscription service, you no longer have access to it. If you stop paying for a subscription service, you don't have access to anything that's on the subscription service anymore. So you'd have to pay the full £50 or $60 for something that you don't even technically own. That's not good. And people aren't happy with that because that's horrible that's horrible design for anything. That's not how, if you're going to do it, if you have to do a game streaming service, actually do it like this so that game streaming services can get destroyed and purged and we can never deal with them again. But if you're going to have to do a game streaming service, it should basically be Netflix, but with games. It shouldn't be this backwards way of wrong. It's just wrong, honestly. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. They probably weren't thinking, to be fair, because the whole project is led by Phil Harrison. Phil Harrison is basically, he was the CEO of Sony when they released the original PS3. The big 60GB one. That one that cost billions of dollars and lost Sony money on everything. As awesome as it was financially a terrible decision, and he did a terrible job. And it seems like he's doing a terrible job again, because Google Stadia is meant to apparently run at like it's running off Google's like super powerful servers, apparently. Huge air quotes there, because it's meant to be able to easily run 4K 4K 60 easily. And people are finding that it's struggling to do that, surprisingly. Surprisingly, the first attempt really at game streaming doesn't work very well. And essentially Google lied, because it doesn't seem like it's actually possible to get the maximum things they were saying. And what's even funnier is when they released the Founders Edition, which came with the Stadia controller, which is the only physical thing they've released for Stadia, which if I find it used, I might get it just to see if it's any good, because it's just a standard Bluetooth controller. But I will not buy it new, because that is supporting Stadia, and supporting Stadia is wrong. Don't do it. But essentially, the thing with hang on, right. Anyway, they made this thing called the Founders Pack, which came with the controller, and it came with a Chromecast Ultra, which is just like it's kind of like a Amazon Fire TV Stick, but Google version. So, problem with this is, if you're trying to run Stadia on it, the thing overheats. Like, straight out. It's rushed. Google Stadia is a rushed job. It's bad. It's game streaming. It's awful. It's wrong. It's bad in every way. It's just, no. Don't support Google Stadia. Google Stadia is bad. You will regret it. I promise you will regret supporting Google Stadia. But anyway, I think I'm at a higher level because these enemies are way stronger than normal enemies. But anyway, enough ranting about Stadia. We've got plenty of time to do that in the future. Now, we're getting to the end here. There's just a couple things left. First off, there's a new Classic system coming out. So far we have the NES Classic, the SNES Classic, the PlayStation Classic, the Mega Drive Classic, and the Commodore 64 Mini Classic. See, some people call these systems mini systems, some people call them classic systems. I prefer to call them classic systems, I don't know why. But there's going to be a new one based off of a system called the TurboGrafx 16, which came out at the same time as the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo. It came out before both of them, actually. In Japan, it was called the PC Engine, and it was actually really successful in Japan. It outsold the Mega Drive. It didn't do very well in America, where it was called the TurboGrafx 16. It did okay, but not brilliant. And in Europe, it barely got released. It's one of the rare. The European version is one of the rarest consoles ever, because it didn't do well at all here. So the thing is, in Japan, it was really successful, and it got a ton of models. Like, you had the original PC Engine, you had like the PC Engine Duo, the PC Engine Shuttle, the PC Core Graphics, a ton of different versions of this thing. Everywhere else only got one version because it wasn't super successful. So in Japan, they're getting the standard PC Engine, which is just it's a little white box with a card slot. Like, the games are on cards, not cartridges. like little hue cards. So that's what the games are on. So that's what they're getting. And America is getting a mini version of the TurboGrafx Extreme because that is what they got. In Europe, the thing is coming out. Buy something. I kind of want the shield, but I can't afford the shield, so I'm gonna leave. Right, but the thing is, in Europe, we're getting a version that only came out in Japan called the Core Graphics. Core Graphics never came out here. It's just like a cosmetic shell. It's just a shell on the outside, so it doesn't. It's not like it really matters, but it's just kind of strange how like they've chosen to create a different shell for this thing, despite the fact that the I don't own a PC Engine or a Core Graphics, but they look similar. I think the Core Graphics is slightly bigger, and it's a completely different paint color and everything. Like it's kind of like a. It's not quite black. It's a kind of like it's not black and it's not navy. It's kind of somewhere in that range, and it's got blue writing on it. It's pretty. It's kind of decent looking, but you know, it's different from the PC